right. Shalom, shalom, shalom. We are here again. All right. All right. All right. That means that if we have been blessed one more time to come together and they are coming in the room here. Let's see. All right. We'll give a shout out to those that are got a parking space right here in the room. Of course, that's in the chat. I know it may be some that's here that may not be in the chat. So, all right, we are back again, and we just been dealing with some expectations, living someone else's expectation, and definitely want to make sure that we develop our own expectations in that. Let me see if I can find something here real quick, and we are going to build on this. All right. And see what the Father says about these things. It's always a good thing to know that. All right, somebody else's expectations. We don't want those things. Yes. All right, all right, all right. Well, I know last week I had mentioned several things, but I guess we'll start out with a question. I won't, I guess, elaborate too much. I think I had a lot to say last week, and we'll share the time. Be someone that shared the time. You gentlemen, have you ever had a expectation and it did come to pass, and how did that make you feel? Or you had an expectation and it didn't come to pass. So either one that you really wanted to share, and then how did you handle that in that? And I know that we're going to really tonight, probably in part two, kind of end it with the expectations of what the Father desires from us, and we want to make sure that we build on that. His desires be our desires. So when the word say that he'll give you the desires of your heart, we want to make sure that those desires of our heart is his desires also. So we got some, but they it kind of runs together. So when we're talking about the expectation, people can give you expectations of what they expect out of you, and you can reach those expectations or you can supersede those expectations. And I think I kind of end with on last week with the question of sometimes in our mind we have the expectation of a certain thing, and maybe it was not always totally or complete of what we felt like it should be, or we had an expectation, or somebody else gave us an expectation, and then it's because it is always good to again to have those things, right? Because you're going to have the healthy ones, but you want to make sure that you know that you reach some of the expectations that even you set for yourself in that, and that's good also in that. So one of the things is that I could put in our heart is, Yeshua. One of the things that Mashiach always put before us, he was saying that when he came down and when he came, right, one of the things that he said not to do my will, right? So in the expectations of that, sometimes it's not so much of what I want, but is what he wants for me. But he said, I came to do the will of the one who sent me, right? So being in covenant with the Father is I want to do the will of the Father that delivered me. Hallelujah. That delivered me, that created me, that made the things that I want to do his will. So the expectations of my life is to make sure that I line up with the covenant, in that. And that's something that we all can do, line up with the covenant in that, and learn how to have expectations totally in the covenant, totally in that. Let it be my life. You know, I wasn't gonna say God, but sometimes the guide is sort of like, one step to two steps. But when it becomes your life, it becomes a part of you. So we should have expectations that the covenant becomes a part of us, for sure, in that. So I said a little bit more. Did you gentlemen remember the question that I had, or that any of the expectations that you had that did come to pass, or some that you had that didn't? You can go down either road or whatever you want to encourage us with, power us up with, and something that we can put in our heart, and then only not on that, but in our lives as well. So, all right, Jedediah, we'll let you come up, my brother, and share with us.
Oh, shalom already.
Shalom.
Um, so it's just with that question is both. I can think of both. I know with my job, there was a time where people were needed in the profession that I'm in. And so, they was kind of desperate. So they were hiring people on without being certified. They're like, okay, you get hired, but during your time working, we expect for you to get certified.
That's good.
And that was a lot of things that I had to do, in that time frame. And I was able to get it done, not in a timely manner that I wanted to get it done, but I ended up getting it all done. And my boss, they all expected for me, to go through all the curriculum, to pass all the tests, and I end up doing all of it, and I praise y'all for that because it was tedious. It wasn't something that was, I would say, was easy, but I was able to accomplish that, and that was the goal that was set for from my employers. Um, Also, when it comes to me being a husband and a father, there are certain expectations that is naturally put on me as the head of my household. You know, I'm expected to provide, I'm expected to protect, and I'm expected to provide a purpose in my household. So, s- uh, those things I can say that I either done or am still doing, or may still need to work towards, certain things. And those expectations that are put on me, not societal expectations, but more along the lines of what is it that the father, you know, or the things that he has to put on me. For me being a husband, I'm expected to lead my wife in a righteous way, to lead my children in a righteous way. So those are the expectations that I see where that's where I'm going, and that's where I can say that I'm successful in, and still working towards even some things. And now there are some expectations that were put on me that I failed. I know the way that I felt when I let someone down. It's for me, it's a bad feeling because a person expected for me to do something, and I didn't follow through with it. Um, I guess it depends on the person, but it's just like one of those things where shame comes upon. Like I feel shame because I did not meet your expectations, and especially if I agreed to something. You know, if I agree to this is what it is, and I'm going to do this or have this done or whatever the case is, um, I could see that in my eyes that's just failure. But it wasn't something that held me down though, because failure is part of life. It's something that I teach my children. Everyone has failed at some point in their life at something, whether it's a test in school or whether you opened up a business and it didn't go too well and you had to try something else. You know, Failure is part of it, but you don't want to stay in that same area where you constantly failing someone and you're not meeting the expectation that someone has put on you. And we're talking about healthy expectations. We're not
Yeah,
talking
absolutely.
about
Yeah, yeah.
something that's in someone else's mind and how they see how things should go or how they feel how should go. You know,
Right.
we're talking about things that kind of like what we talked about last week. What you said was realistic. You know, this is a realistic expectation. You know, in my profession, you know, there are children that I teach. Their parents expect for me to teach them. You know, so do I meet that every single day? I would like to think so. You know, but I could say that there's two sides to it. But I like to go more towards the sides where I feel more accomplished because that's a good feeling, and that's something that I would like to hold on and even pass on to others. It's like either that people who are going for even what I'm doing or they doing something different. You know, everything takes time. There's nothing fly by night. There's nothing that is just happening within seconds. Whatever it is that you're doing, you probably gonna have to put work into it. And putting that work into something, especially when someone is expecting it from you and they're relying on you, you know, it could be stressful. When someone rely on you, you have to do something. It could be stressful. But as long as you're diligent about it and you actually have a heart to do it, it'll get done, you know. So that's just what I have to say on it.
All right, all right, okay. Well, Hoshua, we'll let you come up and share some of your heart.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, my brother.
Sometimes I gotta type it out before I say it. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah, that's all right.
But I really liked what you and Jedediah had to say. I had some similar ideas, so if it sounds as if it's on repeat, it's just because it's that good. I praise Yah. We're able to talk about this. I had to gather a couple ideas because what you said was it's like I really wouldn't want to differ too much from that, you know, especially coming from the world on having the expectations that those without Elohim had. You know, it says in Ephesians chapter 2 that there was a time where we were without Elohim, you know, and we didn't have the promises and things to look forward to. And in that time of my life, the expectations I had, they had um they had no fruit to them. So I'd say one of the things I would say I was looking forward to, you know, after learning and coming into belief was joining an assembly. I was very cautious about it. There's a story out there about it. I won't rehash it. But I was looking forward to it, but I was very cautious because I came into the knowledge of the Most High. Right, right. I'd say it was right before Passover or right after. And so I pretty much almost had a whole year to come across all these different things. And then as I was learning, when I finally learned about Sukkot had just taken place and I was grieved, you know, because I'm learning, but I haven't done anything with what I believed. And then my wife happens to find a conference in Norman, Oklahoma on Hanukkah. And then from there, that's where I think things really started to change for us. You know, I was able to, that's where I first acquired tassels. You know, that's where I finally spent time with Yah's people. It wasn't just me and a TV screen. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I got to meet those who were teaching the word of Yah. I got to meet people who were following it and living it out. And it was just amazing. So I'd say that the coming into the covenant and living up to what I had been learning, I had looked forward to that very much so. I'm extremely excited. And to see what it's like after, you know, this many years later, I still am excited. There's a lot of things to learn and a lot of expectations to develop. because as you grow, you're going and you learn more, you're going to want to do more. And I think there's just a lot that goes with that. And I'd say there's a difference between reading it and living it. I had a conversation with my brother, who I'd wanted to enter into the covenant for himself for many, many years. And he finally, showed trust the Father. And he was talking to me. And he's like, I get it now. He's like, the Sabbath is so refreshing. He's like, it makes perfect sense. And I was like, that's exactly how I felt. I remember just like, just coming into the Sabbath day, and it was better than anything I ever had expected, to truly cease from my labors. And actually, it's intentional. It wasn't just like a day off from work. It was a day where everything came to a cessation, and Yah chose that time just for us. It was amazing. It was amazing. And like what my brother was saying, after, becoming a husband and then becoming a father, parenting. Oh, wow. I don't think I ever could have set expectations for what it meant to be a father. It changed my life, seeing my children come into the world, seeing the stress and the labor that my wife went through to usher them in. And it blows my mind. Like every time I think about it, I always brag on her about that story. I'll spare her. I'll spare her today. But there's just so much. There's so much there. And I'd say with parenting, I think there were plenty of times where I had set unrealistic standards for my children. And it was tough to learn, Sid, you're being too hard on him, or Sid, you're expecting too much from him. And we have 4 now. And I mean, this goes all the way back to the first one. So that was even 10 years ago. I still didn't know what was going on. So I'd say becoming a parent was definitely, there had a lot of expectations that were just, it was out there. And I'm not saying this is what I did, but this is just something that I've experienced. Sometimes it's, if this is just an example, of course, I didn't live out my dreams. So now I'm going to force my son to live out my dreams. So now he has to live up to an expectation that wasn't his. And then he has to live up to a lifestyle he didn't choose, just to make me happy because of the choices I didn't make.
That's good.
So I just think that I don't believe that's good at all. I don't think that's a good thing at all. And I think sometimes causing people to live up to our version of life is a very unfair and unrighteous thing to do.
Good.
And in the walk, there were some things that I had set as an expectation. And I believe a lot of my brothers and sisters have said things to me like this. And I try to encourage them now, but I can only encourage them now coming from where I went. But it was almost this idea, you should know this by now. No. It's not the right way to look at it. And I mean that in the sense that there are some things that, because you're around someone that's probably more read or more mature, so those things are not synonymous, by the way. But someone who is probably more read, or now you're like, wow, I should know as much scripture as this brother or this sister knows. That doesn't equate growth.
Correct.
It's not. And then we've got this thing like with the book of Hebrews, where he says, by this time you ought to be teachers, but now you're needing to be taught. It's like, wait, you can't just use that as a blanket statement. There's a specific group of people that had the teaching, but they didn't live up to it. So here he is admonishing them, and I think sometimes we have to realize that if you're coming in belief, and your belief is not, it's just the beginning. You still need to live it. You need to live, and I think sometimes it's a process that we think, I don't know. I want to go the Hollywood route with it. It's like someone just hits you on the stick, and now you all of a sudden have all this wisdom and knowledge, and it's not like that. It takes time to grow. And I also think, in that growth, it and you become more mature, we have to use the right measures and weights in order to understand what you should know by now. Like, what are you putting into practice? Were you taught this? And if you don't have a teacher, there's going to be a huge gap between you and someone who does, because that person has more than just quoting scripture. They're going to have a practice of life, something that they've seen and now they do it. That's how we were meant to be taught, like children. You got to see it in order to do it. And some of this, I don't have a face-to-face or person-to-person relationship with the person I'm learning from, so my imitation isn't going to be as strong. So I just think that we have to understand that all of our teachers were once students. So if I'm not in the position of a student, then how am I ever going to become a teacher? And then not only that, once my teacher sets a standard, I won't be able to exceed that standard. So I'm just looking up for that great standard to be preserved in me, so that the next person can achieve to be as great as what the previous standard was. Because we can't exceed our teacher. Well, it's just not going to happen. But if I have the mindset that I'm going to be greater, I'm going to overlook one of the greatest lessons the Messiah gave us, to be a servant first. Seeking to be the greatest, you got to make yourself the least first. And as I said before, there are times where, we have to grow. And I just think if we skip that stage, that student stage, or, I have these unrealistic expectations on what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a teacher, to shepherd, prophet, evangelist, all those different things, then I may become incomplete or half-baked. Looks good on the outside, but the inside's uncooked. And I think with that, we can overlook the fact that being a babe is a good thing. There's definitely a receiving of the word, putting aside of our old ways, and then craving that adulterated milk of the word so that we could grow. And that's what at least that's what it says in 1 Peter 2. And I just think sometimes with that whole idea that I should know this by now, I've overlooked stuff in the scriptures, especially like there's an example in Matthew 16 where the Messiah is teaching, and he just says, to his taught ones to just, what did he say? He says, mind or beware the leaven of the Pharisees. And if you know that particular place in Matthew 16, I think it's interesting, because it's only after then the Messiah explained it that they got it. So they needed to learn. So I just feel like in that same place, often we come across something and we have this expectation that I should know it already. And only when we sit down or when we learn or we change our expectations, we look at it a little bit more realistic. Have I been practicing this my whole life? There's a whole much more that we can learn. And that even when we even when we read this, I just think there's opportunities. I mean, read this as in the word. There's even more, I guess, awe that can be increased on us, because here we are reading the writings of the apostles who followed the Messiah, who were humble enough to include all the stories of when they didn't get it. So I just think there's a lot for us to learn. And for our expectations to grow, especially when it comes to the walk. And like you were saying, what the Father wants for us.
All right. I think beautiful, beautiful. I think you gentlemen really brought out a lot in that. If I just take that last statement, like you're saying that you have made, is I think that it really, when we read in our scriptures like that, it's a key for us. It was a lot of times they were saying, the Mashiach would say, how long would you have to be with me? Do you not understand? Right. So it's never a letdown or a put down. Right. It's just that sometimes when we are trying to develop something in our heart and in our mind, it has to go through something. Right. It has to go through something, because most of us already have an idea about something. Right. We always got an idea about something. So in order to accept something else, we have to let go of the other or see how they can maybe sometime mash together. We find ourselves like that sometimes in that. So it's not, it never was meant to be a overnight success or I study 10 things and I have it all, whatever that all is, right? It's ongoing, right? It's ongoing. And so all of us, right, we find ourselves in a place of we want to say the student or in that because who if you say if we for instance if we say leader, then you should always, you never ever never stop growing, right? You never. And so when you was using that, don't supersede your, say to your teacher, it's only because that teacher should be growing also, right? So that way, if it's sort of like if somebody is in ahead of you, say if somebody 3 blocks in ahead of you, then when you get to that that third block where they at, they should be 3 more blocks in ahead of you. If not, then you will catch them because y'all would be there together, in that, in certain areas when it comes to us, right? But since we are always growing, then we'll always be ahead. It's like, you're saying about your son, then you would always, if you continue to grow, you would always be ahead. Now, that's not saying that somebody didn't know something, maybe I did not know, but you would always be ahead when it comes to the wisdom. We talking about the wisdom of Yah. You could your son could be 15 and he could know so much more about a car. I don't know nothing about say mechanics. He could be working on that, and I do not know anything about mechanics. When it comes to the things of the Father, though, that operation, it works a little bit different in the sense that we always growing. You're growing into your last breath. And so we enduring until our last breath. Right. So it's a constant growth. So that's what you have to understand is if you're still growing, then that person already been there. If somebody's teaching you something, then that's how we should look at it. And so we can always glean from the trees from those that are more mature in that, right? So in our expectations, sometimes we need to ask ourselves certain questions here. And one of them is this expectation moving me towards or away from what Yahweh's purpose is for me? Right? So we need to line up those expectations. And that's one of the things I want to know. Whatever it is I'm getting ready to do, is this expectation me moving me towards the things of the Father, deeper in the covenant, or is it moving me away? Right? And if it's moving me away, we're talking about that's not healthy. So I think Jedediah talked about what's healthy and then what's not healthy at the beginning of this as well. So I'm going to his purpose now. Now we talking about the things of the Father. I'm going towards his purpose no matter what the situation is, right? So if the company I'm working for, their expectations is, say I'm working on a team and our team needs to be number one in the city, right? But in order for me to be number one, I have to cheat on some numbers, right? So the expectation is they want me to be number one, but the expectation is that's moving me away from the purpose of Yah, right? So I can't deal with that expectation. That expectation is not going to be right because I'm gonna have to cheat in order to do that. So when we are lining those things up, sometimes we need to ask ourselves those questions when we begin to go into those things and in our life. Does this expectation change me in any unhealthy way? Right? Will it drain me This expectation that I'm getting ready to do, will it be too heavy? And we're talking about the weight maybe that somebody's put on you, right? Also, am I accepting this out of guilt? Now, that's not a lot of things people do is they accept things out of guilt, right? You know, because if I'm not, I feel guilty, or out of a genuine agreement. You know, never agree to nothing if it's not genuine, right? Never agree to anything that is not genuine. But if you're just doing it out of guilt or you're just doing it out of this, then it's gonna get difficult for us. You know, when we're talking about the things of the Father, and so we never want to be willing to accept something that will compromise anything of the things of the Father. So all of those expectations there, those are those are not good ones in there, right? So we want to make sure that we understand that as we go on, and then we always, like it says in Proverbs, we always seeks the counsel, right? We always seek counsel. So nobody never stops, you know. It's according who it is that you're seeking it for, because it you know, not don't somewhere they have to be, you know, you're gonna always have your elders, but it could be different ones, but you want to seek the counsel of Yah, you know, and everyone does not have the heart and the desire of the Father, you know. So you have to be able to vent those things out, and that be very, very important in that. All right, that's very important. And before I have you to come up again, Jedediah, you know, this is something that I haven't done in a long time, right? Sometimes I think the expectations of somebody, we need to ask them. You know, you can start with your husband or your wife or whatever, and it needs to be regularly. You know, I'm just saying maybe it needs to be every 3 months. I'm just throwing something out there, right? Every 6 months or whatever. You know, I know what I should be doing, right? And I think Jedediah at the first he said to protect his family, all that. But sometimes we just need you ask the wife, what is it that what's your expectations from me? You understand? What is it that you expect from me, right? What is it that you desire from me? Because I want the expectations to line up, and those things can line up with the Father. The same thing with the children. What is it? Have we ever asked our children, what is it that what's your expectation out of a father? What is your picture of a father? You know, what is your picture? Not my picture, but what is yours? What in your mind? Because they be at different ages, and they'll be able to present themselves. The vocabulary would be different, right? So what is it? And then from our brothers and our sisters, even sometimes, you know, we have expectations, but I don't think I really asked them, what is your expectation of me, though? You know, maybe that's something we'll throw out there. You know, what is it that you expect? Because then that gives me an opportunity to adjust it, right? You know, maybe you know, somebody's expectation. Oh, I want you to do da. Well, I can't do that, and what your expectation is might be unhealthy. It may not line up with my life or whatever, you know. And then I could discover some things that maybe your expectations are too out of reach. I think we use the word not so much of I don't want to say not reality, but they out of reach for me, you know, they out of reach for me. So we have those different things in there that we need to deal with. But I think that would be good. You know, your mother, your father, your aunties, your uncles, or whatever it might be. You know, have we ever just took out time and said, what is your expectation of me? And then listen, because it's their expectation of me, not my expectation of them, you know, in that. And now I'm saying that, but I have not done this particular thing in a long time. I can't remember. It's been a long time, you know, because you know, life happens. But I think that it would be good, because sometimes people, you know, if you did not reach the expectation that they think you should reach, it may not be reachable for you. Then hey, you know, that's it's not gonna go. If you think I'm gonna be a surgeon, if your expectation for me is to be a surgeon, we're not gonna. It ain't gonna work. It ain't. It's not gonna work. I'm just a garage doctor. It's not, So those are the things that we can set to. So Jedediah, just whatever's on your heart, my brother, we'll have you to come up. We'll make this final round here, and whatever just on your heart in that, and what in the ways that we're discussing. Hallelujah.
Yeah, so I had 3 points. I talked about the first two. The third one was about the mishpachah,
Oh, okay.
our
All
brothers
right.
and our
Hallelujah.
sisters. And I was I was definitely gonna go there, and I'm so glad that you brought that up because there is expectations that we should have for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of touched on that last week. Um, the expectations are set, with the word. That should be obvious. May not be obvious for everyone, but it should be
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
the Torah, the scriptures, it sets the expectation of what I'm looking for, in you, my brother and my sister. But it's also about me too. Well, what expectation should I be living up to, concerning the word? And then what is outside the word, that my expectations that I should be living up to?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I even love how you even brought it out with the wife and the children. And there are certain things that they should be able to bring to you. Be like, this is my expectations for you. You know, um, I know my children expect me to fix everything. I, I
Yeah.
like, let me call
Yeah.
Sid.
Yeah.
I call Yehoshua in a second, and there are certain things where I'll be like, okay, I'll do this for you. Um, just recently, our toilet broke. My wife expected for me to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and that was an easy fix. But if it wasn't, I would definitely be on YouTube looking something up or how to fix something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really where I've been at in the last couple of years is really trying to be the one that can accomplish things within my household and live up to their expectations.
Good. Good.
Um, and I think of my son. Excuse me. I think of my son. He asked me a lot of questions. Some of those questions I can't answer. And I just be like, I don't know the answer to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but since we live in the information age, we can try to go find the answer really quick. Um, I'm sorry, I had something to come up. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yes. Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. Something came up on my screen. I don't know what that was, but but yes, that's just the lane that I try to stay in is making sure that I am fulfilling the expectations of my household, um, and things that they look for. Especially my youngest, she looked for me to pay for everything. I'm like, I'm not gonna buy that. I don't. Either you don't need it or I don't have the money to do it. And that's what we're talking about: healthy expectations and trying to
Mm-hmm.
teach them. You can't expect for anything you lay your eyes on for me to be able to buy for you.
Right.
That's not how it works. Um, and when you get older, your husband's gonna tell you the same thing. Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, and just dealing with the family, I guess, the mishpachah. And I think that is a good lane to go down because it's just like me being a student under you. It's like, what does the rest of the mishpachah expect from you? You know, one thing that I will hope no one do is try to line me up because Ox said it himself, like, don't line me up with my brother. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the way that the father give us things, it could be different. The goal is still the same,
Right. Right.
but it could be different. So it's like don't what you get from him, don't expect to get it from me, or and vice versa. If you get something from me, don't expect to get it from him. That's not the way it works. And then another thing will be coming from other different leadership. You can't expect to get the same thing from a previous leader that you was once under. The
Mm-hmm.
Father has
Mm-hmm.
given our teachers, our leaders, our shepherds different angles of how to deal with things. This one may have prophecy. This one may have prophecy or don't deal with it. This one
Mm-hmm.
just does the encouraging. This one does this. This one does that. So I think that's a lot of time. That's a trap, like my brother would say. That is a trap. You're not going to get the same thing.
Right.
So
Right.
we're going to eat from the tree of the shepherds that the Father gave us, and whatever that we're getting from that, all we got to do is make sure that we maintain it, because I've seen that happen plenty of times, even with myself. When I first came under you, I did have an expectation, like, what's this and what's that,
Right.
you
Right.
know. And I love that you said, but did you do this first? Did you deal with that
Mm-hmm.
first? You know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
those are the things that within the body of the Messiah, our expectations may look different coming from different individuals, and just hopefully that I'm able to live up to those things and the things that I know I desire to have, whether the wisdom, the knowledge, the ability to explain things. Wherever the Father puts me, that's where I want to be, and um, that's just something that we as Hebrews have to understand. We're going to deal with what the Father has given each other. We're going to deal with each other's gift. He didn't give me the gift of singing, so never expected me to get up behind a mic and try to sing.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
not my lane. But whatever else he given me, that's where I want to dwell, and hopefully to help and build up those within the body of the Messiah.
Yes. Yes. As good, my brother. You sharing those thoughts and things with us. Uh, it like you were saying, the when we talking about those, we have a desire. Well, let me say this before I turn it over to my brother. Like you were saying, that it in our scriptures we all have that's going to be the guideline, because if I am comfortable and if I'm reaching what the Father says, right? So for instance, just a quick one, say forgiveness, right? I think we can all agree, right, that that is what the Father desires from us, is to forgive one another, right? So you should have an expectation that I would forgive you. Is that correct? Okay. So if you have that expectation, that is not something that's out of reach. That is not something that it is reality. It's not far away, but you should have that. If you say that you're my brother or my sister, then you should have the heart to forgive. So that is an expectation that I can, knowing that in our relationship that we are in covenant, that we can reach. So that's not something that's out of reach, you know. So many a times there would be individual things that we could do, in that. But you can't say, for instance, expect me to buy all of your clothes, right? That wouldn't be right. You can't call me, oh man, I seen this shirt I like. I seen these pants. Let me call that. That wouldn't be that's a out of balance expectation in that, right? It wouldn't flow right, and maybe they'll try to throw something out of context. If you see your brother in the need, so of course it takes wisdom to follow through on that. And then there's an expectation could be, well, brother, I can, maybe get you a shirt or two, or something like that, and maybe I do that. But I said all that to say that when we can feel comfortable when it's in the word, that's what I wanted to say there. All right, my brother, you can come on up for this second round.
Excuse me. I know Mama G is gonna say something about that.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You heard her
I
voice, didn't
can't
you?
help it. I can't help it. Yes. She's like, you're making all these noises. Why are you making? I can't help it. I have nerves. Okay. Um. So I really like what you and Jedediah said. I gleaned a lot out of what you said. So if you heard it already, just act amazed.
All right.
So, and I love what you were saying, Jedediah, because when I was at your house on the second day, that seemed to be the role. It's like, oh, my swing broke, and then you gotta go fix it. Oh, this broke, and then you gotta go. I was in the back of my mind. I was just watching you, man. It was awesome, man. You definitely were there, and even when little Jay decided to have that attitude, you still, you got that swing rolling. So that's awesome, man. But yeah, like you had said, just being there for our families, and I believe just to say the same thing differently, the word dictates the boundaries of these different expectations. And with that, I think that's what will really help us to stay happy. And I remember saying that last time, just like we need to set that threshold and control it. That's all we can control. We can't control the situation. So I think with our friendships, the way we grow up and where we came from really changes how we expect someone to support us or to celebrate with us, or the scripture says rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. But sometimes we're given the opposite. And like you were saying more about, we need to be forgiven because we don't really know when we're off, especially if our friend isn't going to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe in that friendship, there has to be this area to build instead of just waiting for this one wrong thing to happen. I'm going to cut the whole thing off. I just don't believe that's of the Most High. Like, how are we going to continue loving one another? Right. And every single time I'm at fault, you let me know, and then I can't correct it. That's not good for a relationship, and it sets bad expectations. It ruins our friendship. Mm-hmm. And in those friendships in the Messiah, we should all have the expectation that my brother and my sister will forgive me. And that's not coming from me, but the King of Kings himself.
Hallelujah.
Or you shall not be forgiven. I think we really need to take that to heart. That not being forgiven part, that'll change your life if you take it seriously. It really will. And another thing, like you were saying earlier with family, like especially because, like you said, you mentioned the daughters, and even with our wives, and even like you said, Maury, that's a good question. I'm gonna go ask my wife. I'm gonna pick the right time to do it. But you were saying, to set standards, I think that's just something we really need to do, because we in a family, we need to believe that we're all supportive and that we're all willing to contribute and that we all can. And sometimes there's this expectation that I can't offer anything in the family and I can't make it better. And I believe those are things that need to change, because husbands and wives, we build together. No one can be closer to you than your rib. So in those opportunities, there should always be room to be more supportive, be more understanding. Let's do that whole empathy song, put yourself in the place of me. Let's understand it. And if you really, if in the relationship, we really can invite someone into that space. If I want to be understood, then I can make a space for understanding. In relationships, I believe that's something we should expect. Because there's a lot of general interactions we have expectations for, when you recognize that at your work, at your job, hey, we want to show some. Actually, I can use you, my brother. We want to give Jedediah an award for the Teacher of the Year. I'm pretty sure when they did that, everybody cheered. I'm pretty sure they were happy and they were applauding. So it's not a general expectation for recognition. So then the same thing can be in other areas, and then we have to, I think, be okay when things don't line up. because social norms should. That's one of the traps, like you were saying. That's one of the traps, because sometimes we expect everybody to have the same reaction about things. We don't understand, hey, this individual may feel shy, or they may not expect to be recognized, or they don't want the recognition. So sometimes they get upset about it. And you're trying to recognize it for something good, but my expectation is that you would want it, but yet you don't. And I need to respect that. I need to respect that expectation. And I think we've talked about it before, but honesty. There has to be one. We have to have a scriptural or biblical world expectation of, a view of honesty. And in the covenant, those are things we really need to live out, so that we can, like you said, achieve the rewards of the master together in the kingdom. And I guess another thing for me here in Texas is the weather. With Texas weather, people sometimes really change their mood over the weather. I don't, maybe it's just the way I see it, but you got some people that feel good when it's good outside, but they don't when it's not. And we have to be okay. Again, like I was saying, we can't let situations dictate us. But if someone expected the day to be a nice day and now they're sad about it, we might have to get over that. That expectation that it was supposed to be a good day and the weather changed. Hey, we can get over that. We can get over that, or it rained during your special event. We can get over that. And I think having those expectations really control us. They really do. When somebody, I deal with this all the time. Oh, I didn't think it would go like that. Well, that means you had an expectation. It was a good one, but just because what you expected not to happen happened, doesn't mean that you still can't go through with something good. And there's just basic ways to handle that. That light turned red faster than I expected it to. Well, I still need to stop. I still need to stop. Oops, that I crossed the line a little bit. That's better than just running the intersection and be like, oh, I didn't expect it to change. That's accident. My bad expectation and not accepting what reality gave me can cause harm to come to others. And I think the same thing could even happen with rules or instructions in the Torah. Every community has their own halakha sometimes, or the own way they do it. And sometimes we let the way our community rolls be the standard or the expectation for all communities. That can be a trap. Yes. And like you were saying earlier, Moray, with the growth of our leadership, that's how the community grows. The elders dictate the ceiling for the community, because they're at the top of wisdom and knowledge, understanding for us on the earth on how to walk this thing out. So we can't say to a community that doesn't have the same type of elders that we would have in ours, we can't come against them or look down on them or give them expectations that their leadership hasn't given them. And if they submit to that leadership, that's who they're subject to, And I think sometimes with, I like to pick this one because it's easy. So, the first Passover, they ate lamb and goat. Sometimes people forget that goat was part of the offering. So, someone today says, oh, we're having goat for our Passover. I can't go against them. It's in my word. People did it. So why would I choose to be upset? And now I want to look down on their Pesach because they're choosing to have a different kosher animal for the Pesach offering. Because kevis could mean baby sheep or lamb too. So I just think that's it specifically would say from the sheep or the goats, that particular verse in Exodus 12. But that's what I'm trying to say. Sometimes our expectation is you need to do it the way we do it. Instead, we should have you did it. Hallelujah. Yeah. You wore tassels. I wore fringes. Hallelujah. Your 14th of Nisan was yesterday and mine's today. Hallelujah. Whatever it is, like we, hey, right. You kept Sukkot 2 months ago. Oh, hallelujah. You kept Sukkot, and if we change our expectations like that, we may create a more inviting environment for my brothers and sisters in the covenant,
Mm-hmm.
because that's our people. And I think too often we create a boundary that that the Most High didn't make, and we say they need to live up to it, and thus we repeat the same folly of those who came before us. And like you had told me earlier, JD, that brother Anthony had fixed your laptop, which is awesome. My brother going places. Congratulations today, by the way. Today's a big day for him. So I just think that technology sometimes we have these expectations that it's supposed to work, and it doesn't go the way we wanted it to go, you know. And I've seen that plenty of times where when technology is not doing what I want it to do, that I lose it. I've lost it so many times. In fact, I had that today at my job. I installed a device. It was supposed to go a certain way. I did everything I was supposed to do, and it still didn't go the way it was supposed to go. So I had to, redo it a couple times, and next thing you know, it's all working. And the same thing with interactions, involving technology. Did you do this? Did you do that? I have to do that every day. With being in the tech field, every day it's starting at step one, and that can really get on your nerves, having to do everything through the phone and everything. And it doesn't. They leave me a number, but it doesn't connect me to them, and woo wee. It can
I
be a
think I
lot, and
think you got triggered, did you?
those are my expectations. I'm just being real about it, because those are my expectations. I expect it to go, and it doesn't go. And next thing you know, I have to find another way. But if I let the way I wanted it to go get in the way, all of a sudden, I fell off. But yeah, those are just the different points that was on my mind. And there's just certain things like events and catastrophe, deaths, births, all those different things that we have expectations about when people receive good news or bad news. And like you said, if we have a relationship, maybe we might be able to hit the mark a lot easier, instead of just expecting everyone to be just like us.
Right, right. Absolutely. Because that expectation that's going to be way out there if he had that one, right? As well. In that, I had something that two things, and then we'll close it up. Three things, I think. But Jedediah explained, you did get a reward. Explain to us what that reward was at your school. I don't know if it was was you the teacher of the year or was something else. So what was that?
So it was two. One of them was I was nominated
Okay,
for Teacher of the Year. I didn't
okay,
get Teacher of the Year, but I was
okay.
nominated. When I still had a certificate for it as well. But
Mm-hmm.
then I did get what is it called? It's Student's Choice. So
Yeah, yeah,
basically,
okay.
certain grade levels they voted for their favorite teacher, and I received the most votes. So yeah, that's what that was.
All right, all right. So you didn't expect that, huh?
No, sir. I didn't expect
Yeah,
that at all.
yeah, yeah.
Like I
No, no.
told my principal, like I'm not doing none of this for recognition. I love what I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. I just thought I echo that because really, those of us in covenant, we should do our best to try to stand out, even if you don't get recognized. Please continue to stand out in those things. Of course, our dear Marie and her son. I think she is with him, and I think she'll be there tomorrow too. So I just want to know that our prayers of strength will be with them as well. And of course, our dear Sarah, she things were successful in her operation, so I think she probably be resting now in that. And I don't know. She might peep that power up. She might have done that. So we are grateful for those. We really are grateful for them, and knowing that the community is with them, and they definitely in our heart during the times like this. That's what really what touched my heart is knowing that her son, she said her son needed her, and she has a heart to be there with him as well as others. So we just thank the Father for that. And also, the third thing I want to leave with this, and hopefully this will encourage us. This is in the expectation now. All right, because I threw it out there, and I want to make sure that the wisdom fall behind that. When those of you that have chosen and will choosing to ask others about, say if I say, what is your expectations of me? You're not trying to say maybe come up to it, but it's good to know what their expectation is. Husbands and wives, when you get ready to do this, right, do not strike up an argument. That's what they feel. It doesn't necessarily like make it true or you can't do it. Because when you ask those questions, husband and wives, that can come into an argument. We don't want that, right? They just expressing the expectation. So in a shalom manner, then you can kind of deal with it, in that. So the expectations, like I say, for instance, it always been on display. I think you said a swing or something broke. Not you are. I think the host would say that. Well, anyway, you went to go fix it. So most times you come to the husband to make sure that it get done. It doesn't matter if you have the skill to do it. They come to you to make sure that it can get done. If you have to reach out to get somebody else to do it, fine. But the decision of getting those things done and all of that, they know a place that they can go for safety in order to have those things done. And that's what we should be doing. So they should be able to come to us, whether we delegate the thing or we, say if the wife said, "Oh, I look like the grass need cut," maybe you have to tell the son, "Okay, it's time to cut the grass." Ain't necessarily mean you have to cut it, but somebody have to cut it. But I think it'll be good, and it could be a few things. It don't have to be overwhelming. Just take a few things. Hopefully our wives and husbands don't have a long list, but just a few things. Maybe that can be the discussion. What is it that you really expect out of me? Because it's going to be something that I didn't really think about, or it'll be something that, oh wow, I thought I was doing that. Don't entertain those particular roles if you decide to do that. Same thing with the brothers and sisters. The same thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll look at that this Shabbat. We trying to get the leaven out. Maybe we'll look at that, and maybe we can ask one another the same question. What is that? I guess I never really, like I said, got into that. But definitely we know what the scripture says about it in that. And in the Colossians 3:23, and whatever you do, whatever it is, whatever we do it healthily. We got to be healthy when we do it. Now, this is going to be the key. So when you ask those questions or whenever, as to the master and not to men. So when we do stuff, we want to make sure that we want to please the Father, right? We're not trying to please man. You did what you did to be, well, the children have nominated you and to be on that list. Somebody else did that, but sometimes people go after that. Oh, I'm going to win that a student of the year or teacher of the year or whatever, mechanic of the year, right? And it's okay to shoot for the thing, but what I'm saying is, regardless if I didn't or not, everything I do, it should be a nominate for. You know what I'm trying to say? Husband of the year, I don't know, whatever, fixed man of the year, whatever it should be. But you get that because you just doing what you needed to do, right? It shouldn't be something that's out of the ordinary. If I'm explaining this right, or even if it's coming across right, because people can have those goals. Maybe they want to be the best, whatever. But whatever that is, it's more enjoyable when you just doing your job, and it's not so much of a second thought or going after this or trying to get this bonus and all of that. It's just sometimes it's more enjoyable when somebody else you living life and somebody else know that you serving the Most High. You understand? You living your life and somebody, you're not trying to put every little thing on display that, I serve the Most High, and then they can recognize those things. So it's just another way of looking at it, not the only way, but another way of looking at those things that help us and as we doing those things, because we never want to be men can have those expectations, but if they don't line up with the things of the Father, then they won't be healthy for us. So we want the healthy. Colossians 3 and verse 23. Well, you really read the whole thing, but we want to do that because it says, children, obey your parents in there, and 20 and all, and this is well pleasing to the master, right? This is well pleasing, right? That's the expectation that the children obey the parents, right? And then there's a scripture we also know that you can't provoke your children, right, to wrath, some use, or anger or disappointment. And I'm using these words in there, right? So all of that is, so the word will definitely put you in a place where the expectations will be pleasing to the Father, and not only to the Father, but also to the family. So if you are pleasing and doing what the Father telling you to do, it'll be pleasing to the family because they'll see that, right? They'll see that. So some things in the natural that we have some expectation that we have too, and then they would see those things. And so we don't have to bring a lot about the expectations of others to be so much disappointing in that, knowing that people do. We use the term people will be people, that type of thing. So in that. But all right, my brothers, I appreciate you again, all of these things, and just kind of building on this. And hopefully that, this will be something that we can really think about, maybe something that you already knew. Those of you that be listening, hopefully it'll be some power up moments, and that's something that, really can enhance your life. And if you take those things and get an understanding on, really just practice, every power up, every session that you might look at, that it can somehow you can apply it to your life and go back and just look at those things. So I'm grateful for that. I see Yehoshua bailed out on us, but we gonna say shalom. I know he had to go in that. All praise to the Most High. Hope everything's all right, my brother. And we'll see you guys. Talk to you guys real soon. In that, yeah, I see you popped up. You okay, brother?
Yes, sir. My son had
Yeah,
to use the potty.
yeah,
He had to go.
yeah. There you go. He always who bombed us last week. Was that
It
him
was
too?
him.
It was him. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah. Love him so much, boy. He is all right. That he is all right. Okay. Well, we're gonna get on out of here, and life happens. And thank you again, brothers. And appreciate you very much. Looking forward to talking to you real soon. All right. Shalom, shalom.